All right, welcome to my FX Buddies, the podcast. And I say podcast because there are many ways to interact with this content, but my favorite way, the way that I recommend always, is the blog. So yes, I'm back to my regular time, so I'm speaking lower than if you listen to the earlier one I did. But you see, if you listen to the earlier one, there was noise. The four-legged roommate made an appearance. So either you get my loud voice with noise and interruption, or no interruptions. Well, except the crickets. You hear the crickets? It's not even that warm outside. I think it's like 64 degrees. But there they are, singing to me. Anyway, so, yeah, So, there you go. It is what it is, right? Alright, so, now, this, the title of this is Iraq's Exchange Rate Showdown. Traders turn to the streets. But I don't really want to talk about that because it's pretty much the same thing. Because remember, the rate had gone, the Dinar dollar parallel market rate, it had dropped down to like almost 1305, I think. And I was like, oh, no, not 1305. 1315 or something. It was really close to being on par with the CBI rate. Then it jumped back up to like 1415. Well, today there were two 1397.5s. And then 1420, 1425 were like the higher rate, which is really lower, right? Because the dinar is less valuable with that higher number. But anyway, so, and it's just saying that the people were freaking out. The merchants needed transactions to close, but going through the proper way is slow, right? So they go back to the parallel market. But since it's going back down, there must be something going on to make it go back down, right? See this? Extend a regulatory gap in foreign exchange mechanisms and compliance restrictions imposed by the U.S. banking system. So yeah, something happened. The parallel market will keep speculators in a position of influence over prices. So same thing. It's just happening again. And then we had, Mustafa Hantoush. He was interviewed again. And he said about 90% of the Iraqi banking system is still subject to the influence of dollar restrictions due to suspicions and problems it has experienced over the past years, noting that it is expected that within less than 3 months, some banks will begin to gradually free themselves from these restrictions. So he's pushing it out November, December, January, right? 3 months, because October's done, right? Today's the 27th. October's done, then the rest of the year goes by so fast, right? They're already talking about, I'm trying not to laugh. Thanksgiving dinner is very much in the news right now, right? Anyway, but yeah, so I don't know, November 1st is, Iran. Okay, don't forget. So, anyway, let me stay focused. Alright, yeah, so, we have that, and then remember this guy, and I was like, I'm not really familiar with this guy. He's speaking again. And his picture, I think, should be right here, but economists, a recession is likely after the elections until the government is formed. So see, they're not inside Iraq. they're thinking it's all about the elections, and so today there's 15 days until the election, 65 days left in the year, and it's, if you go by the date, October 27th, right? Okay, so here, now this person's name is here, but their picture's supposed to be here, so I don't know what happened there. 15 economic legislations awaiting voting. So lots of talk about votes, and they're going to try to do it before the elections, but come on, we know better, right? But they have this, and the 15 do not include the oil and gas law in this article, right? But something called a red card law for renewable energy, I'm not sure what that is, but so there are laws that have to do with them and a good life for them, right? Not what we want, okay? Okay. All right, so let's see. The largest block. So here, so if you listen to the one earlier this morning, and I said there's talk that would seem we are gonna hold, the U.S., right, or the West, whoever is really in control, right, is gonna hold this off because we want the results that we want out of this election, right? So, the largest bloc no longer matters. The Trump administration... Oh, I just said the name. Jeez Louise. Anyway, sets post-election rules for the first time. The U.S. begins to separate Iraq from the neighbor issue. So, you see that? And stay tuned. Well, I know some of this is really boring to some people, but some of this, they got their popcorn and they're looking at the Iraqi election soap opera. So in the final days leading up to the Iraqi election scheduled to take place in 15 days, the neighbor is attempting to retest the loyalty of its allies within the country amid indications that the upcoming elections may produce a different political equation, one that favors a shift away from the neighbor's influence. Okay, so that's what we want. There's a new and unprecedented international development, right? Because now that it looks like this rate change is about to happen, and clearly there's foreign investment, right? I wasn't going to talk about the layover. So I guess on the way to Asia, the U.S. president stopped in Qatar to fuel. And the Qatari, I don't know who he is, but it's just a joy to watch him. He is, he's hilarious. His facial expressions, and he speaks in whatever language they speak there, right? But I don't know what he is. And then someone that was above him, they came on the plane on Air Force One, and while they were refueling, they had a meeting. And I was thinking the meeting may have been, okay, what's going on? We got you your little peace treaty. How come we still don't have this money moving, right? And the U.S. president probably said, well, I just need to secure a few more things. I got my guy over there, right? And he's trying to work some things out for me. So just give me a little bit more time. That's what I would like to think happened, but I don't know. And then a person that I listened to kind of confirmed that today, right? If you listened to that. All right, so yeah, and then the Arab, who was that guy? The Bahraini, some banker guy, right? Was in Iraq. If you listen to the morning update, then you know what I'm talking about. So the money's starting to come in. So they want peace. They want stability. They want to know their investments are going to pay off. And if something's being interfered with by the neighbor, they don't have that, right? So, yeah. All right. So you can read this if you like. It's just full of points that prove that I don't want to say we're interfering, but we're pressuring, right? Pressuring the elections. What do I call it? Electioneering. We are electioneering. And then they go back to some of the things that have happened in the past to get a truce with the U.S. How we were trying to get, we were trying to have an agreement with the neighbor, right? So it's pretty lengthy. I know some people will read it, not everyone will. But this is, you see, I'm still scrolling and I'm still in the same article, right? Okay, so now this can't be true. But for those listening, and someone told me, oh, we get video on Spotify. Yes, but some people listen to me while they're walking their dog. Some people are driving. Some people are on their treadmill. Good for you. Take some steps for me. So that's why you'll hear me say, for those who are just listening and I describe what I'm looking at. But anyway, so this says Washington to Baghdad. We will determine the highest posts in Iraq. Now, if this was said, I don't think it was supposed to get out in their news, right? The U.S. administration has sent a strong message to some Iraqi leaders saying that with their consent, it won't matter. We don't need your consent. But just for the right thing's sake, we'll go ahead and say with your consent. The highest positions in the new Iraqi cabinet will be appointed. The U.S. has insisted that it alone will decide on the posts of finance, oil, interior, defense, and central bank governors in the next Iraqi government, and will not allow other countries to interfere in the issue, a source said. So I have this here. I say, leaked info, perhaps? The U.S. Special Envoy to Iraq has been appointed on this basis. So that's what he's there for, to do electioneering. So here is, I don't know, Akili, I don't know how you say that, warns of a power struggle that could delay the formation of the next government. Now, I think they want it put together fast. I think we want it put together quickly, but, the ones who are going to go down, they're not going to go down without a fight, right? So, then here's another person, Al-Dulami, the U.S. President's envoy demanded control of 7 sovereign ministries in the next government. So this, by the wording of this, I believe he's there. And they have his name spelled wrong, but whatever. It says that person's name, his full name is there. Delamy, whatever. A member of Parliament confirmed on Monday that the U.S. Special Envoy to the U.S. President, Mark Savaya, informed senior officials in the political process of the necessity of not interfering in the selection of senior positions and 7 sovereign ministries. So, and think about what those are. Those are the major ministries that form the country. And here we are saying, no, you can't interfere because we're going to interfere. Right? So, hey, it is what it is, right? If you haven't read, and even if you're in another country, there's a book, The Confessions of an Economic Hitman. The first one. It's kind of a lengthy book, but it's worth a read. But also, there's a interview or like a speaking. He kind of speaks the major parts of what he did, what goes on And you can see this playing out. Like what's happening in Venezuela right now is very similar to what we did in Iraq. And it's the same. I even heard someone say, we just need to send an economic hitman over there. So I was like, oh, they read the book. But if you haven't read that book or listened to the guy talk, he gives a speech. And it's probably 15 years old now. But it's on YouTube. Confessions of an Economic Hitman. Then you'll see this is how things work. Whether we like it or not, right? Okay, so here's the ways to support my FX buddies. Oh, and shout out to my #1 sponsor, TE. Thank you, thank you. So, yeah, but I already talked about that this morning, so. And all those links are in the little side. Oh, did I tell you how to get to the blog? Look for a prompt that says more info, description, something of that nature. You click on that, and another box opens, and the link, it'll either say link to my FX buddies, or the link itself will be there, blue, and you click on it and you get to the blog. The blog is free. You don't have to put your email address, and the full articles are there. I only go over the parts that I find interesting, and, well, for time's sake, right? Clearly, I find the whole thing interesting if I've posted it here, but for time's sake, I can only point out the bits that are the most important, in my opinion, right? So this guy, doesn't he remind you of Rod Serling? I don't know. I love The Twilight Zone, and when I see this, he just reminds me of Rod Serling. Not that he looks like him, but he has like that Rod Serling vibe. Anyway, he says, raise your hands and pray that Sadani gets a second term. So, yeah, that's pretty interesting. So now he says 14 days. So maybe this was written to be released on the 28th. I don't know, but 14 days, history will record that Iraqis have chosen a bright and better future and tomorrow. 14 days, history will record in letters of light that the builder of the new Iraqi Renaissance, Mohammed Shia Sudani, will move Iraq forward to a free homeland and a happy people. Ah, isn't that lovely? Then also then he gets real, right? And to distance Iraq from regional tensions and the specter of war, and to restrict weapons to the state, and to preserve Iraq's sovereignty. Oh, and guess what? The PKK? The PKK is what do I call them? Unrecognized, informal force in Kurdistan. They very often get targeted by Turkey. They agreed today to lay down some of their pew-pews. Yeah, so, remember I said, what did I say? That guy Kaani coming over. Okay, so we're going to get off this guy. But yeah, so he wants Sadani back so bad. He says we have to pray. If you weren't listening, Kaani, who is the Quds Force commander for the neighbor, right? He came over and spoke with the coordination framework, which are who? Yes, they are the Irani-backed politicians, right? Ghazali, Amiri, possibly Abadi, Maliki, and there's other ones too. I just don't know their names. And I said, if we start seeing the informal forces laying down their pew-pews, then the neighbor may be cooperating with us. at least giving an appearance of cooperation. And go back even further. I said China and Russia may have told the neighbor, look, why don't you just go along to get along so they can get their money and then we'll infiltrate again, right? I still have that on the back burner. But yeah, so it's very interesting. So that's one that they said we'll lay down some of our pew-pews, but not all of them. All right, so the rest of this is pretty much about oil. No. There's no videos. There's one fun thing, but wait, before I do that. Oh, there's a really cool thing that the CBI did. Okay. A U.S. delegation hosted by the Minister of Oil to discuss energy cooperation. So, it doesn't say, you know what, maybe it does say, but here, right there, that's the Minister of Oil. And then this is probably an interpreter taking notes. And here's our people. And that's not too bad. And look at this big, that's probably an air conditioner, right? All right. Anyway. So, the Undersecretary of Energy, okay? The Charge d'Affaires was there. Their names are there, but they don't say what companies they're from. They met with the oil minister who is talking a lot. OPEC gave another increase. They approved another increase for how much oil Iraq can produce. I don't know the period. Is it a day? Is it a month? A week? But I saw the number is 600,000 barrels. So I don't know. Like I said, if you want to know, you can look that up. And you know what? It might be in this article here, but you guys know how I am. I scan these articles because I think oil is greatly manipulated. Oh, and just a little fact I read over the weekend. The possible reason why Saudi Arabia would agree to a lower price point of oil, because in years past, Saudi Arabia has always wanted oil to be around $80 so they could get the profit they like. But they have changed. They have so much other income coming in now. Let's see. I wrote it down. They only 68% of their income comes from oil. So the rest, what is that? 32% more? Whatever. They have other ways of making income now, right? Non-oil revenue has increased to the point where a lower point, possibly, right? Because Saudi Arabia, they don't really tell their business to the press like other countries do. Well, you know, because they're a kingdom. They're not a country. The kingdom of Saudi Arabia. But anyway, so, yeah. So I could see them not causing trouble to get the price of oil higher because they, you know, they're still at a level of income that they're comfortable with. Yeah, so it's crazy. All right, but anyway, so yeah, the oil and gas law returns to the forefront and Parliament faces a test of political will. So as the fifth legislative session draws to a close and the country enters the electoral phase, the federal oil and gas law returns to the forefront. Yeah, but guess what? It's gonna go right to the back front. Or whatever the opposite of forefront is. That's where it's going. The oil and gas law is one of the most contentious issues between the federal government, which is Baghdad, and the Kurdistan region. But I think with this administration being so buddy-buddy with, I'm trying to think of another word. Buddy-buddy's not really a good term, right? Amicable? Favor? I don't know, whatever. Put another word there. A more professional. Someone who sounds like they know what they're talking about. Whatever word they would use there, put that word there. So, because this administration seems to, that's my phone, be more willing to work with Kurdistan, maybe they could get it done, right? They need Baghdad to respect the Constitution, follow what the Constitution says, and then the Kurds will have less contentious feelings towards them, and maybe they could get it done. But for now, that ain't happening. Alright, so that's that. Oh, here, so there was a meeting. The Ministerial Council for the Economy had a meeting, and they talked about, so all of this paragraph right here lists who's at the meeting. And then here's the stuff they talked about. But here's what I thought was most important. Well, here, see this? They're going to deduct some administrative expenses and give interest-free loans to citizens, which technically, if they go by Sharia law, that's what they're supposed to be doing anyway, right? But not everyone over there goes by Sharia law, so. But the council hosted representatives from SOMO to discuss the CBI's report on the analysis of the global oil market. The report serves as a supporting tool in the economic monitoring process and the assessment of risks and future trends in energy markets, so that these reports can be taken into account when preparing the state's general budget and economic plans that support revenues that feed into the public treasury. So, is it for the budget of 2026 or is it the budget of 2025? I don't know, but I thought that was interesting. Now look at this. The CBI put out a decree asking banks to write off loans granted to cancer patients. Isn't that nice? And there's the official document there if you'd like to see that. Now here, this is pretty cool. Kirkuk laid the foundation stone on Monday for the, yeah, you pronounce that word right there, factory project to manufacture electric, gasoline, and diesel cars. Yeah, they're going to be making cars. And it says it will be the largest factory for manufacturing electric cars, which is the first of its kind in Iraq and the Middle East. So if you'd like to read more about that, you can. We're almost done. Matter of fact, this is the last article here. Statement by Sadani on the occasion of the 3rd anniversary of his government gaining confidence. I actually thought it was October 22nd, but they say it's today, October 27th. We made a difference that was felt by the citizen. Oh, and did I tell you the 2 major channels that I watched? They've been off all day. So they could be talking about all kinds of things. Now, like Kurdish news is up. Some of the other channels that I watch that are smaller, they're up. But the 2 that I watched, they're just cut. Just totally off. Not, like I was explaining, sometimes the screen will be black, but it will be connected and the timer is going. But yeah, it's just cut. There's no connection at all. So interesting. All right. So it just says today marks 3 years since Sadani and his government gained the confidence of the House of Representatives and began carrying out their constitutional executive duties. Haha, duty. Anyway, so it emphasizes investing in the successes achieved in most areas and aspects of executive procedures in order to achieve further gains and make a difference that citizens can feel in the economy, standard of living, and public services, and developing tangible digital indicators in the decline of poverty and unemployment rates, and harnessing the economic renaissance and infrastructure growth to achieve more standards of social welfare and to support the civil peace and stability enjoyed by our great Iraq and our people with all its fraternal spectrums. So they really can give some good speeches, can't they? All right, so that's it. There's a very interesting article that I covered in the morning segment. So give me 15 minutes. What I'll do is I'll put in the description box the time tick right to where that article is, because some of you have asked me for it. So and then at the end of this video, oh, did you hit the thumbs up button yet? Yeah, please do that for me. It's free for you, but it helps my channel a lot. But, so when this video ends, another little box is going to pop up, and you can click that, and it will go to the one I did this morning. And then, if you don't want to watch the whole thing, you should. But if you don't, and you just want to see, it talks about how China uses their digital payment system, their digital renminbi, and because Iraq is doing business with China, Iraq has to bring their systems up to the level of China to process the payments via that system. But also, that's the way the world is going. So, yeah. So I'm going to do that, okay? All right, yeah, thank you. Boy, what a day. What an optimistic October. So much happened this month, right? And we have, 4 more days? 28, 29, 30, 31. Yeah, 4 more days. All right, thank you. Accumulate while we wait for the rate to appreciate. Don't miss any meals and pay all your bills. Enjoy the rest of your morning, night, noon, whatever time frame you are indulging in this content. And until tomorrow.